Senator Whitehouse.
Thanks very much. Mr. Donahue, what is the maximum number of lawyers that you have supervised in your experience as an associate in a law firm?
Thank you for your question, Senator. It varies, but it was typically anywhere from 6, usually 8, up to 10 with summer associates as well.
All lawyers?
Not all lawyers, including summer associates.
Okay.
Hey folks, welcome back to True Voice. Today we're diving into something that's been making the rounds, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse's grilling of an EPA nominee. And yes, it gets a bit intense. Let's watch the clip.
What was the maximum number of lawyers you supervised in your job at the solar company?
None, Senator. Not at the solar company.
In your work as an associate in the Buffalo law firm, did you hold yourself out as an environmental attorney?
As an environmental lawyer, I did.
You spent 1 year and 6 months practicing law for that firm in Buffalo, correct?
I was located in that firm in Buffalo, yes, Senator.
Yeah. And you were terminated by that firm after 1 year and 6 months?
That is correct, Senator. If I may just add some color to that.
Well, I have pretty short time, so we can follow up with QFRs, because I promise you there'll be QFRs
Understood.
on this. Have you practiced law anywhere else other than that as an associate in the firm that terminated you and in the solar company where you supervised no lawyers?
Senator, I have not.
Apart from your associate experience in Buffalo and the solar company, have you practiced law in any other place?
I have not, Senator, but I was at the agency before in the first Trump administration.
Not in a legal position?
That's correct, Senator.
Have you ever taken a deposition?
I have not, Senator. This is probably the closest I've ever come to that.
Have you ever tried a case to verdict?
No, Senator. In the firm and at the solar company, we relied on, in the solar company, we relied on outside counsel.
So you were providing inside advice at the solar council rather than active litigation work?
It was an in-house counsel role, yes. But
Have you ever argued a motion?
I have not, Senator. But as you...
You know what a motion in limine is?
I do vaguely, yes.
Well, you should have been better prepped, because John Kennedy asks this question.
Yes.
Have you ever authored and signed a legal pleading?
I have not, Senator. But as...
There was a gap of several years between your graduation from law school and when you entered the bar in Washington, D.C. During that period, did you take the bar and fail to pass?
I did one time, Senator, yes, but
In
there
what
was
jurisdiction?
What, sorry?
In what jurisdiction did you take the bar and
Washington,
fail to
D.C.,
pass?
Senator, but there was a gap before I actually took the bar. I wasn't sure if I actually wanted to go and practice law, to be frank with you.
Under what circumstances would you counsel the EPA administrator to violate a court order?
Senator, thank you for that. I would never counsel the EPA administrator to violate a court order.
Under oath, can you assure us now that EPA is presently in compliance with the federal court decisions by Judge Ali Khan and Judge McConnell right now?
Senator, I believe that the agency is.
When a public official makes public accusations of criminal activity with no credible evidence to support the accusations, what legal liabilities and concerns does that raise?
Senator, as you mentioned in opening, potentially defamation, that sort of thing. But I'm not a criminal investigator. I'm not at the Department of Justice. I don't handle the various aspects of that criminal probe, so I'm not privy to that information.
There is an internal memorandum out of the agency's counsel office that relates that a significant number of grants were terminated based on a significant error, agency's words, in the terms and conditions for those grants. As the Washington Post reported today, an agency lawyer warned officials that they had cited contractual language that did not apply to many of the grants the EPA had ended in recent weeks. Grants had been terminated on grounds that they no longer fit the agency's priorities, referring to a clause in their grants' general terms and conditions that applied only to grants issued between August 13, 2020 and September 30, 2024, and almost half of the terminated grants were finalized outside of that relevant period. Have the grants impacted by this significant legal error been restored to the recipients?
Senator, I've seen the reporting on that. We received your letter, in fact, 2 letters yesterday on this. I was not on that email. I think it was an email, not a memorandum, but I think we're working to track an answer down for you on that.
My time has expired.
Now look, as a proud progressive and a patriot who actually believes in strengthening our democratic institutions and saving the damn planet, I've got some thoughts. Let's break this down. First, let's get the facts straight. This nominee hasn't taken a deposition, never tried a case to verdict, hasn't argued a motion, and yes, did fail the bar once. Now, do those things automatically disqualify someone from public service? Not necessarily, but for a top legal role at the EPA, that does raise serious questions. We on the left fight tooth and nail to empower government agencies like the EPA to hold polluters accountable. But that only works if we put in leaders who can go toe-to-toe with big oil's armies of lawyers. We don't need figureheads. We need fighters. You don't walk into battle with a rubber sword. Whitehouse isn't attacking for sport here. He's doing his job. And let's be honest, if a Republican nominee came in with this resume, we'd be shouting from the rooftops. So let's be consistent. Competence matters. Now, let's talk about the grant fiasco. The EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, prematurely terminated a bunch of grants, and apparently, it was based on a major legal screw-up. Nearly half of them weren't even covered by the clause they cited. That's taxpayer money gone. That's clean energy projects, community efforts, and science-based programs, all gutted over sloppy lawyering. Look, I want the EPA to be strong. I wanted to regulate carbon, go after polluters, and lead the fight against climate collapse. But we can't afford amateur hour in leadership. Not when climate denialists are waiting for any excuse to slash the agency's power. We got to demand the best, even from our own side. If you care about clean air, clean water, and a future your kids can live in, you should care about who runs the EPA. And if they're not ready, we should say so. Holding our side accountable isn't betrayal. It's patriotism. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because truth-telling is still radical in 2025.